Hello and welcome back to Sharp Cuts. My name is Garrett May alongside Josh Nickel. As always, we got an excellent show for you today. I'm hype and I'm still on fire from last week, Josh, so you better watch out. Today we got special guest Alex Poldma. Welcome to the show, Alex. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing great. Excited to chat it up with you guys.
Well, that's nice, and I'm glad you're being nice now. We'll see how that lasts throughout the show, because I won't ask you quite yet, Josh, what order Alex was in the text you sent out to get on the show, but you might be feeling a little bit worse by the end of the show. So welcome back. Before we get started, I got to let everybody know we are on YouTube, Sharp Cuts Volleyball. Hit us up there. If you got any comments for us, let us know. If you got players of the week, clowns of the week, we want to hear them. Hit us up there. Also on the podcast, 5-star, all that great stuff. You guys know you're bored of that. Let's get into it. So Josh, we've never done this, but I think we're going to start with our players and clowns of the week to let everybody know it's actually something we do and we're interested in. So I don't know where we want to start, Josh. How ready and confident are you feeling?
I'm ready now because it's our most popular segment, so I did some preparation about 3 minutes ago, and I'm ready.
Is it our most popular
go,
segment, though? Like, are people clamoring for the players of the week? Maybe the clowns of the week.
Could be.
So you're ready to go?
I'm ready to go if you want.
Well, bring it. It better be good then, because you're saying you're ready. I know Alex is sweating buckets because we didn't really warn him before coming on the show, so we'll give him a chance to prepare.
Typical Josh. I'm going to fence it a little bit. I have two.
No, don't even. Are you kidding me?
So my first one's a serious one. So you know me by now on the show. I'm just jumping on the bandwagons every time. So I'm jumping on the wagon of the team. Mount Royal ended the Alberta Pandas' undefeated streak this weekend. So I'm going to go with Madison Marshall, who had a big weekend. So they lost 3-0, but then they came back and they beat them in 5. Alberta's no longer undefeated. Jumping on the wagon of Mount Royal. So Madison, that's my player of the week. My second one, Garrett, is a shameful plug, a shameful pump my own tires, where Sarah and Melissa are training to Toronto.
Wait. You got a second player of the week?
Yeah, and this is just a friendly shout out that I had lunch with Sarah Pavin. I asked her about 406 questions over lunch. She filled me in with all the secrets of beach volleyball. It was a good lunch and learn for me. So she thought it was like a casual, let's just sit at the same lunch table. No, I asked her like at least 400 questions, Garrett. She answered every one.
So, Alex, this is what we get here on the show, is Josh is giving shout outs to player of the week for just having lunch with him. Like, that's kind of the level we're at
when a world
right now.
champion answers your questions, Garrett. It was like fantasy camp. I just kept asking questions about different players, different situations. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, but was she just creeped out by you, maybe?
I think in the beginning, but when I'm pumping her tires and she gets to like nerd out on the tactical side of beach volleyball, I think she was okay by the end of it, Garrett. You'd have to ask her.
Unbelievable. So forget Sarah Pavin. Who's your first one? Because that's actually legit.
Madison Marshall of Mount Royal.
Marshall, well done.
Wagon of a team.
Now, what is their record though, Josh? Because just because they end somebody's undefeated streak, they could be 1-7.
I think it's not that great. Let me get back on the standings page here, Garrett. So that would make Mount Royal. Oh no, they're 9-3, and they beat the at the time 11-0 Alberta Pandas to make them 11-1. So now we got a bit of a race there in the Central Division in Canada West.
Great. You know what? Great. Good for you, Josh. Well done. And you know what, Alex, we'll save you because I know maybe you're just going to be, unless you're ready to go.
I have to commit to the hockey route. So like you said, Garrett,
Are you kidding me? You're coming on a volleyball show and you're going to go hockey route.
Well, Josh was, I was like number 13 on Josh's text list.
And, well, we don't know yet. We'll find out. If it's 13, you should be upset.
Well, he's asked me before here and there, so I kind of...
Wait, you've bailed on us before?
No. I've been
just never committed. Non-committal.
Yeah. Hey, I'm committal for putting a date down, but getting the last...
That's the problem, Garrett. He wants weeks in advance to be on the show. I'm a same-day guy.
Yeah, we can't do that, Alex. So, I mean, we're glad it worked out this time. But again, it might have been a lower down text. But you're ready to go with a hockey player for player of the week on this volleyball show? It better be for a good frickin' reason.
Well, yeah, I guess my volleyball viewing in the last couple months has been pretty low, other than the boys I coach. So I was like, the only thing that comes to mind would be like Trevor Zegras from the skills competition. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was pretty. I mean, his stick handling was incredible. That's one thing, but the showmanship with the dodgeball reference and the blindfold and everything, like that was for a. An all-star game that's kind of boring year after year, unlike the NBA all-star game, like that was definitely a highlight. So I know it's not a volleyball guy, but he's a California guy. So
You know what, though?
He
We
plays in
appreciate the
California,
showmanship here on this show, Alex. We've talked about it on previous episodes. We need more of that. So definitely much appreciated, and we need more of that in volleyball. Like, let's get somebody out there with the put on the blindfold, get ready to do a serve or something. Like, it's not going to work out, but still, you got to go down with glory. Like, we got to take some lessons from that.
And he admitted, a teammate of his admitted on Spitting Chicklets this week that the blindfold was supposed to be fake, but the guy who put it on like folded it in half and put it on, so he was actually like a little bit blindfolded where it was supposed to be a gimmick. So the fact that he pulled that off and was actually like it wasn't a gimmick, that's even more impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Okay.
He's had some pretty like highlight goals in games too. Anyway, that was my player of the week, and Josh's answer was probably better, even though he had two. But yeah.
I mean, if Zegers wasn't number 46, I might buy a jersey, but 46 is hard to pull off, even when you're that like nasty. But anyways, terrible number.
Have you seen the kids these days in volleyball? Like, I coached a 13U team a couple of years ago, and these guys had like 81, and
they're letting them go big numbers.
It used to be like it had to be between like 1 and 12 at one point. The older listeners.
So how many?
Garrett, I think you were 1 to 18 era, maybe.
How many number 69s are out there? Is what I want to know.
I would say too many for under 17-year-olds. Like, that's way too many.
Not enough, you mean? We got to have a 69 on every team. That sentence, I really need to walk that back. There's no nice way of saying that, though. Number 69.
There were some weird numbers, like even weird for hockey numbers. But then my buddy James and I, we were coaching. We started just nicknaming all the guys the hockey players, like whatever number they were. Like, if they're number 44, it would be like Roman Hammerlick, and the 12-year-old kid would be so confused as to who that was. And
not stronger. Come on, you got to at least pick the good players.
Well, my brother wore 44, so we used to chirp him by calling him Hammerlick, not Pronger.
So what we're learning on this show for our listeners is that we got a couple of hockey nerds here on the show, as well as volleyball nerds. And Josh, don't get any thoughts about starting some sort of hockey podcast, because you know I'm not following you down that road. You said 44 like you know guys' numbers. No, I got no idea. Unless somebody's 69, then I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Otherwise, I'm out. All right.
Now, there's too much competition for a hockey podcast. We're the number one volleyball podcast, Garrett, because of being the only show in town.
We're the number one Canadian volleyball podcast? I find that hard to believe as well.
Sometimes I get an Apple podcast update every once in a while. It fluctuates a little bit. I'd say we're up there, though.
Well,
I don't want to give free ads to the other shows that are in there, because then our listeners might Google them and we get passed for sure. So
if you're still listening, subscribe. Anyways, keeping it moving. So I actually have a legit player of the week this week, which is rare for me. It's the first time I've ever done it, but I felt like this guy I had to call out. So his name's Anton Napolitano, and he has some highlight clips on YouTube. So if you go check him out, you can see some of the action. And he's a setter, but also an opposite hitter. So he plays both positions. They run maybe a 6-2 sometimes. He subs in and does both. He won the CanWest Player of the Week this week and had a really weird stat line. Like, he had something like 30 kills, like 50 assists, and like 30 digs. And it was kind of like, that's such a weird collection of stats. And I totally butchered the numbers probably, but I was like, man, this is the kind of players we got to respect the game, having a wide variety, not just the specialists out there going for 30 kills. No, I'm going to go for 30 kills over 3 games, sure, but then I'm going to dish the butter as well. So Anton, well done. Also, he's Australian, so he's good guy from down under, mate. So we got to give him some props, right? Well done, Anton, my player of the week.
I hope it's a true 6-2 and not just like a modified like 5-1 where they sub it in, because like the high school teams that used to run a 6-2, the setters would just set each other. Like, it can work out really well for both players, I think. I
don't really know. It's hard to tell because it's just highlights when you watch, right? And the highlights look good. Like, guy digs a tip, circles around, gets the back set. He crushes the X a lot too, which I'm a huge fan of. We don't see that enough as guys coming around for the X. So that's your setter coming around to hit an X in a 6-2, which is just pretty sweet.
The box squad's got to be going crazy every time he gets a huge mash like that.
They absolutely did in the highlight. You can see it's a good view of the bench, and the bench is going crazy. And I was like, all right, boys, I respect what's going on here. So that is my player of the week. So moving on, we got Clowns of the Week. This is actually my favorite segment. I don't know if it's the fan favorite segment, but it's absolutely my favorite segment, where we make people call other people out. And specifically you, Josh. Are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
I love it. Let's go.
So again, to fence it, I have an assist, Garrett. I got a message
What
from
do you mean you're
Derek,
fence
friend of the
sitting
show.
again?
Derek from Deadman's Beach has the clown of the week for us, and it's you, Garrett. It's you, because
Me?
every episode we fish for views and we want shares and we want people to subscribe. We're gonna ask Alex to subscribe to the show, I'm sure. And he sent me a link. He's like, "You guys are like starving for views. You fish for them every episode." He sent me a link. He's been in a YouTube video that is over 100K.
So why am I
Talk
the
about
clown of the week for
finance.
him having success?
Because, you really need to earn his respect, I think, Garrett, in a lot of layers. So he's just saying, like, sometimes you lay it on a little thick and you're fishing for these clicks, where he's been in a video with over 100,000. So he's kind of big timing us a little bit, but it's mostly at you.
Yeah, now reverse clown of the week back at Derek for calling me out. Are you kidding me? I'm the clown of the week for asking people to watch when he's got a nice video with 100,000? Oh yeah, Derek, I've got views with 100,000 people, 100,000 views in it. Check it. Yes Guy Gaming, subscribe. How's about that for a full turnaround back at you?
Don't check Sharp
Nice.
Plus that has like 14 views and 2 are me probably. And
Yeah, 2 of our subscribers is me and Josh. So, I mean, that's, you know what? That's a great segue into my clown of the week, which is Sophie Bukovic. And Sophie was our guest
dare you.
last week. And she was a great guest. It was an excellent episode. I really enjoyed that episode. But I do got to call out one thing. We specifically said to her that when we have guests, they don't even subscribe to the channel. She told us she was honest in the beginning of the episode, and she did not subscribe to the channel. Unbelievable. She fed us the yarn and didn't subscribe. So, I mean, it's got to be clown of the week, Sophie Bukovic. Call it out. She also called out Sam Schachter last week and then not delivering. So I got to throw it back.
he was rocking the sleeves this week. I just need to update our listeners that still rocking the white, grimy sleeves.
That's gross.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, that's how this show works. We're calling people out. I guess I'm getting called out. I'm the clown of the week this week as well for Josh. Like, it's a bit harsh, Josh, but
Well, no, mine was actually going to be Canada West, Garrett, because I know you don't dig this far ahead, but I've looked at their playoff format. So they have a division of 5 and 2 divisions of 4.
wait,
'cause
we're
of
coming
COVID.
back to you like we didn't finish.
Well, I gave Derek's clown of the week. I'm going to look at mine. So here's how their playoffs work, Garrett. Your whole division can make the playoffs. So like the West 5th place team can somehow make the playoffs because whoever wins their Central division, their East or their West, like you're going to host a mini 4-team tournament, like an OVA club pool play. The top 2 from that are then going to advance to another division. So now they have 2 pools of 3. The top 2 from that will then advance to the final 4. So here we are every week. We pump up the Canada West saying it's the best division. They have all these awesome players. They have awesome teams. Their playoff format is as inclusive as I've ever seen in my life for a high performance sport. 13-team league, like 12 make the playoffs to begin with. And then you cut it down to 6, and then you cut it down to 4, and I think they get like 3 bids for nationals probably. So it seems like everybody gets a turn, Garrett. Their seasons are going to be the longest. They're going to play the most games, and everybody makes the playoffs except for that one shameful team.
That's an unbelievable format. And I do not approve at all. Great clown of the week, Josh. I mean, excellent clown of the week. I'm always down to give it to the administration. So Ken West, give your head a shake. Now we've burned the bridge both with U Sport and Ken West, so nobody's hiring us to do the commentary, Josh. Glad you
And we
succeeded
were hard
there.
on the AUS at the beginning, so yeah.
Yeah, we're screwed. Okay, Alex, you've heard clowns of the week. Are you going to be able to deliver a clown of the week to match what we've got? I mean, I was one of them, I guess, from Derek, so it's not that high a standard.
So my question to you guys again, because I got the last minute text from Josh there. Can I go like retroactive? Like, can I go like call a guy out who I played with like 5 years ago?
Absolutely, we fully approve that.
Oh, okay. You guys are in for a treat. So one of my best friends, this guy's name's James Evans. So he was a left side.
Oh, I remember him well.
Yeah.
He broke his ankle against us.
No, he broke his elbow.
Oh.
So let me get in a couple stories here. So James, like hockey guy growing up, Red Wings fan. He had a good life for 20 years there, and late bloomer to volleyball. Like I think his first year of club, he was 18U, I think, and then he came to Waterloo.
Pretty good career for a late bloomer.
Yeah. He played 1 year club and then, did a victory lap in high school, played baseball, played hockey, and then came to Waterloo, played volleyball, ended up being an OUA All-Star in his 5th year. And I got a bunch of clown stories from him. But one, Garrett, you brought it up. So we were in a game against Western. First set, Theodore Kazamiaka breaks his ankle. Or no, he rolled his ankle. And so he's out. So Jim comes in. He gets subbed in. Like 10 points later, in 6 back, he goes for a ball and falls on his elbow and breaks his elbow. So there's a couple clown moves here. One, he gets subbed off, and like our trainer's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure like your elbow's broken. Like we got to the hospital. And him being like a hockey guy, he's like, no, Boone, just tape it up. I'll go back in. and his elbow was like ballooning and like it was broken. And he's just like,
that's some grit.
He's just like, zip it up, like, put the stitches in and I'm good to go again. So then that's an obvious, like, if you guys know James, like that's like an obvious James play. But the worst part of that, and Garrett, you might remember this, is Chris Lawson in that game.
So that's your coach.
Yeah. Chris was the coach of Waterloo. He put a guy on the lineup who was injured. And so Sergei Grabovsky was our like last outside. So we'd already lost 2, Fido and James. And so he tried to sub Sergei in, but he wasn't on the score sheet. So we ended up playing that match with like our backup setter / libero, Kevin Wiseman, as our left side.
Yeah.
And Garrett, and we didn't beat Western that often, but we ended up beating them 15-13 in the 5th set there. And I remember Jim Sage losing his mind because people were trying to serve our right side Zach Doherty, but kept missing serves. So like I was covering half the court with our kind of half libero, or actually with Wooly, yeah. And then anyway, ended up being like a weird game where our middle ended up scoring on a weird right side ball at the end of the game. And anyway, so that's one of my James stories as a clown, is just him trying to get back in with a broken elbow after a tumble. So
well, I can tell you're already a pro at this, Alex. You're going clown of the week, but yet subtly getting in there a chirp at how you beat me in a match, and it's subtle me clown of the week. So I mean, you're well versed in this. I can tell already. It's subtle.
Yeah, that wasn't the main point of the story, but yeah, we had some tough games against Western.
That was a complete mess all around.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the worst displays of just anything on the court. Just a mess. You know the games where it's like a complete mess, everybody sucks, yet it's super tight and competitive. It's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? They're playing with like their last string guy, like we suck. Like what an awful display. And it's games like that make it hard to defend the Ontario League when we say it's a low level league, and people, oh no, it's like, really? We have evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, when you if you look at the stat line of that game, I remember Kevin Wiseman, a good buddy of mine. He's the guy who came in his left side, and he basically just said, like, screw it, I'm gonna hit balls even though I don't hit. And so he was like 1 kill, like 9 errors for 12 attempts, kind of thing, like just closing his eyes and just hitting the ball because it was a sloppy game. It was a weird one. Yeah. And then we went on a tear. Well, not tear. We went on like 5 or 6 more games with no outsides. Like it was. We had anyway, yeah. So that was my clown of the week. It's better than my hockey thing. I was gonna call it Brad Marchand for poking a guy in the face with a stick and a goalie in the face with a stick and whatever. But
well, Brad Marchand deserves clown of the week most weeks, but we appreciate the story, and it's a nice segue into what we wanted to talk about as well, because Waterloo, and for our listeners who don't know, it's a place in Ontario. Look at a map, like get with it. Their university. What are you shaking your head at, Chuck?
Was that comment not even fair? Like, who's that a shot at? Like, who?
Hey, if you don't know where Waterloo is, give your head a shake. Go look at a map. Like, that's what the comment is. It's a sharp cut at whoever doesn't know where that is. Anyways, so the university gym is freaking massive. Like, it's a pit of a place. Like, it's just this airy, huge place. But you guys always manage to pack that gym full of people, and they're like right next to the court, even though it's this massive stadium, and kind of yelling in the crowd, but vicious fans. And I'm curious, Alex, like, how is that captured? Because a lot of schools try to get that spirit and try to get that sort of support for their team, but really struggle. Like Waterloo, it seemed like every time we went there, I mean, I wasn't there when other teams were there, but every time we went there, it was a packed house and they were vicious.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, anytime we played Western, it was a big game, and same with Mac. But honestly, like, so Waterloo, let's call a spade, like an academic school, academics first, like not, like when I started at Waterloo, like we shared a locker room with the swim team. We had 4 guys with 1 locker.
Yeah, that's tough.
Like we just, I think when Chris took over the program, he had negative dollars in the bank account and like a couple used volleyballs.
You're starting in debt. That's a tough way to start.
Yeah, like Chris did an amazing job because he showed up with like less than nothing basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to your question, Gary, I think it's just kind of like gritty, maybe like just like sports. I don't know. We didn't have a good sports program in most teams, and like I don't know, there was just something about it that like I guess people just tried to get this Waterloo kind of, you know, I don't know, camaraderie or feeling or vibe that kind of was like, yeah, like we knew we weren't like, you know, the good looking jerseys and the facilities and all this kind of stuff, and we were just a gritty kind of team I think on a lot of teams, not just the volleyball team. So maybe that was it.
So kind of like an underdog thing. Like everybody accepts that like, hey, our sports teams are not going to be that great. But when the team kind of gets in the mix, it's like, no, let's show up and let everybody know that we're going to kick their ass.
Yeah, and maybe on the ruthless part, I think we had a lot of football guys and like the women's basketball team out. So they would like have a bunch of drinks and come out and get a little bit, get a little reckless.
Oh, it was intense. Like, yeah. I can remember we only played maybe 4 games there ever. Like, so it's not like it's a ton of games in my life, but the 4 games we played there are very memorable every time. And one game I can remember particularly because we've talked about this on previous episodes, Josh, like guys and girls who get affected by chirping, like significantly, like definitely shut down. And we had one of those guys, and I always felt bad for him because not only did other teams try to chirp him, but our coach like chirped him on the bench. It was awful, like total bury of the guy, but he's one of our best players. So, at Waterloo, always managed to get on his case and always managed to fold him up, right? Like just to come like, hey, nice hair. And he's immediately like checking his hair, like making sure, like just little things like that, just in his head. And you didn't really get that as severely at other places. Like a few other schools had that, but Waterloo always seemed to have like the sharpest digs at you. Like for me, the stuff that was spouted at me from the sideline was like vicious. Like I was like, am I going to get my ass kicked trying to walk out of this gym? Like, holy. Yeah.
There's some. I mean, I could think of a bunch of people who came to a lot of games who were pretty ruthless. But I mean, we've had a couple of alumni events. We have a pretty good alumni crew.
Oh, yeah.
And like when Chris Lawson retired, you know, there's maybe like 40 or 50 guys who came out to support him because of everything he did, and that was. That ended up being pretty ruthless ourselves. A group of 50 guys ranging from like 25 to 50-year-olds, just kind of getting going. And it was against Queens too. So
wait, it's an alumni event and like all the alumni are in the stands.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're just feeding off of each other, and it's probably getting out of hand.
it got pretty crazy that one time specifically. We got some characters in the alumni group, so. Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that though. I thought we had decent crowds. I just never thought that they were that kind of ruthless. But that's kind of funny.
Yeah, probably in the top of the league that I ever played against, hands down. And maybe that's what I mean is like maybe it differs game to game. Like it definitely did with our fans when I played at Western. Like when we had certain schools coming in, there was a lot more people there to watch than when other schools came into town, and they like people just didn't care as much. But there's some legendary chirps coming from the stands at some other places as well. The thing with Waterloo is like when you had so many people there, but they're so close, right? Like on the left side, on the one side, when you go back on your approach, you're basically touching the front row of fans, which is very difficult. Like you maybe almost trip over them a few times. Like what? Has anybody ever tripped over a fan doing that?
Not that's like memorable, but it is basically you start your approach at the bleachers. Yeah.
Which is wild. I hated that.
Back to like our rivalry of Western Waterloo. Sorry, Josh, we're going on a little tangent here.
No, Josh is fine to sit there. Okay, he's fine to.
What are the funniest or most memorable chirps at Western? And you can hear the crowd pretty well at Western, like in that auditorium or whatever. we had this guy on our team, Greg Vivian. We called him G-Babes. That was his nickname from hardball. He was kind of like, just a smaller guy on our team who was like a defensive specialist serving sub. But he was not that small, but I guess compared to some of the big boys, he looks pretty small. So he gets subbed in to serve at Western, and the whole crowd just stands up and starts chanting, "Rudy, Rudy, Rudy." Yeah, and anyway, it was just like all the guys loved. Like it was, and I think G-Babes went back and put a serve in, and we won a point or whatever. But anyways, it was one of the most legendary chirps from the whole crowd. So
great. See, but that was the thing we did at Western to ourselves. Like we had Craig Dixon, who was like 5'3". Definitely a tiny guy, and we used to chant Rudy for him. So I guess some of the buddies in the stands with the short guy coming out, just pulling that out for sure. We have a few legendary ones. I don't know, like it's funny you get the different vibe going school to school, Josh, and this is something you definitely don't get really anywhere else in sports. Like you think about club, you can't talk about where you go and how that affects the environment. Like, oh, you host a tournament here. Okay, maybe it's the court, whatever, a little bit different, but the vibe is still the same. Or in professional, like think about, I don't know, like are you worried about, oh, you go play a tournament in Brazil, you're going to get chirped by the fans? Like, no, right? Like you're not worried about that. But we had a few places, and Alex, you probably appreciate this. I don't know if it's the same for you, but every time we went to Guelph, they always had the funniest chirps. Like, and they used to play in the barn where it was a literal barn, like it was an airplane hangar, and they were right up against you too, not like on the court, but when you were serving, they were right there, and they had fans directly behind the bench, which is a very, very weird place for fans to be, but can definitely get in there. And we had a group of fans yelling at Jim, our coach, yelling, "Hey Jim, let's get a chub gown over here, bud. Let's get a chub gown. How's it going on the bench there?" And we just lost it. We thought that was the most hilarious chirp ever. So we started chirping, "Oh, hey Jim, let's get a chub gown over there, bud." And just classic. And we that was fun rather than getting called out by the fans.
Yeah. Golf was a tough place to play. The gym. I didn't like the gym much at all. But yeah, that's pretty funny. I feel like Jim would be he would get chirped quite a bit, or not maybe chirped. He'd get in the mix maybe based on my experience with him, but
he wouldn't because he couldn't interact.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a huge risk. Like if you're a coach, what are you going to do? Chirp back? I don't know. But my dad will tell the story, my biological father, about because he coached us with us in my last year, and he only came to a few away games because when we drove to Windsor, it's 3 hours for us, and it was 5-hour drive for him from Toronto. So that's a hard sell. But he made the trip, and a bunch of people were chirping me, saying, "Garrett, your dad's better looking." And he was just beaming. He just loved that. And so he'll never let me forget that chirp, which is kind of offensive, Dad. Watch it, okay? If you're listening, which he's not, but that's brutal.
That's a good
Garrett,
one.
I feel like you had a different experience because what we've learned through the show is that a lot of people consider Western their rival. So I imagine Alex being a Waterloo guy, when he goes on the road, maybe they don't have the same crowd support where it seems like a lot of schools think that Western's the school they want to get a crowd for and chirp and be lippy with. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, Alex. Maybe you guys are playing in front of sold out crowds everywhere.
Did people hate us? Because that's the thing. You don't know what other teams think about you, right? You only get what you have in the match, and that's really it. You're not chatting with people after the game, unless you're your buddies, I guess. So did people hate our team?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
And there's guys who hate other guys because they're, a-holes on the court or whatever. But I think, our history with Western was just we had this group of guys, basically a bunch of nobodies, start in 2009. No one was really recruited to Waterloo. Bunch of walk-on guys. I mentioned, my buddy Jim and Crusher, Tyler Motherwell, he's a walk-on, and just a bunch of nobodies. And we kind of worked really hard to go from below middle of the pack to top 2-3 in the OUA, and Western knocked us out, in both our last years. And that's just anytime we talk about volleyball at our alumni games, it's always that last game against Western, and that's probably why. I never thought that the Western guys were ever there's nothing personal there. It was just the team part. There's some other there's some other ones that are pretty good. Like Queens was always kind of lippy and like.
Yeah, they don't do a lot to really endear themselves to other teams, eh?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, it is funny. We played Waterloo in my 4 years. We played Waterloo in the semifinal 4 times, and won all 4 times, and then went on to lose in the final 4 times. Like, my playoff career in university volleyball is identical every single year. Pretty sad.
Yeah, well, mine's even more sad. So.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple of guys. We should maybe get some people who've actually won something on here, Josh. Like, or maybe we asked and they said no because they heard we were on the show.
Can't confirm or deny these claims, Garrett.
Well, we will get to that. We will hear what number Alex was in the order. But there was something I did want to chat about too a little bit because we were talking about it a little bit before we started recording. But we've had a few partnership shakeups in Canadian beach volleyball. And if you're still listening to us, thank you so much. This may interest you. I don't know if you follow Canadian beach volleyball, but I'm curious to get into it because I definitely have some thoughts, but maybe I'm crazy. It's usually the case. If you ask Derek Dedman, I'm definitely crazy. But we have...
things you've been popping off.
We're the 2 shakeups, Josh, and correct me if I'm wrong, because, again, this is hard for people who don't... Like, it's hard to follow that closely. But we had Sam Schachter kind of dump Sam Pedlow for Dan Deering. And we had Brandy Wilkerson kind of dump Heather Bansley for Sophie Vukovic, our last week's guest. If you didn't see that episode, check it out. It's a good one. Do I have that right? Are there any other changes that we should note here, Josh?
I think you're stirring the pot with dumping. We don't really know what happened, but there is a tournament approaching that the registration deadline's approaching for the first Mexico event. So we know that some teams have changed. So for sure, Sophie Vukovic is registered with Brandy Wilkerson. So that's a new team. I was excited to see Ben and Grant are still together, Garrett. That's a fun fact. But yeah, Sam and Dan are a team. Jake McNeil is going to play with Alex Russell. So there's a little bit of shakeup going on at a few different layers. Heather's not registered, so I wonder who Heather's going to play with. Sarah and Mel are still a team. So yeah, I think it's natural in the beach volleyball world to see a shuffle. You see a bunch of Americans have changed partners, a bunch of Brazilians have changed partners, so maybe the new quad is always attractive, a fresh start. But yeah, for Canadian volleyball, Sophie didn't spill the beans last week, but playing with Brandy.
Yeah, like I'm kind of shocked, like for a few reasons. Like I don't know, and this is the thing I talk with Marquise a lot about their partnership, right? Because you think about long-term partners in beach volleyball, that is kind of the pinnacle. Mark and John played together for years when there were more physical partners coming along who were probably more enticing, but they held firm, right? And I mean, I don't know if it worked out for them. Maybe they would have done better. Like their best success came early, but the switch up and the change when you're kind of in the top 30 in the world, like is that? It could take you to the next level or it could totally ruin your next few years, you know?
That is something to consider, right? Like you play with a few partners. Like what goes into it? I think with Canadian volleyball, it's like, where do you want to train? Because we have groups who stay in Toronto, we have groups in California and Brazil. So like there's a logistical standpoint. I don't know. Do you play with friends? Do you play with who you think is the best partner available? Like I don't think we have as much problem anymore, but like left side, right side, like blocker, defender, like I think that stuff's sorted out a little smoother than maybe it was in years past. But there's a lot of layers that go into this.
Well, we can get into specifics. Like I would say it's surprising to me the timing, right? Because when you think about the quads, and we talked about this on a previous episode as well, like how beach volleyball players, it's like Olympics or bust, right? Whereas indoor, it's like you can go play on a team, get your contract, get your money, try to win. But in beach, it's like, no, we got to go to the Olympics. We're not really here for anything else. To change partners when you had a solid thing going at the beginning of a quad, like not 2 years out when the Olympic qualification starts, but like at the beginning, it's kind of a weird timing to me, like especially for teams who have a lot of points and are already highly ranked together on the world tour. Like Sam and Sam, that was kind of surprising to me. Brandy and Heather as well, kind of surprising to me because they were coming from established partnerships with success and results to kind of take the chance on another player. Then again, maybe it's the time to take a chance. I'm not sure. How does that seem to maybe some fresh eyes, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm obviously way more removed from this kind of stuff than you guys are. Most of the time when anything happens, like a result or a change-up, I just text Josh. I'm like, Josh, give me the news, give me the details.
See, but we need that kind of perspective on this show because we can get so tunnel vision and into our own stuff that we got random fans calling us out as Clown of the Week. So we need that external perspective here.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of agree with you a little bit, Garrett. Like, why not kind of try, like, if things are going pretty well, why not, go a year or two, and then if things don't go well, make a change, knowing that you still got some time.
Yeah.
As opposed to like getting behind the eight ball. I don't know how easy it is for these players to switch partners. Like, if someone just says, "Hey, I'm done with so and so," how
it can
easy
be
is that?
surprisingly easy.
Right. Which is what I've kind of seen. And I don't know how much does personality, get put into this, because like you're on the road. Like, if you don't get along with someone that well, like, that's tough. I mean, in a totally different world, I've traveled North America with colleagues, and like some people I love to work with, and some people I'm like, I really just don't want to go to dinner with this person even. And not because they're a bad person, just because we don't jive, right?
Yeah, for sure. That is a big piece. Like, maybe that's part of it too, is like, wow, we're in the early part of the quad. But then it makes you question. You go, okay, so, well, what is it then? We don't know. Like, maybe we're interested, maybe people don't care, but like, why would why would Heather and Brandy break up? Why would Sam and Sam break up? Like, we don't actually know the reason, right? What do you think, Josh? You got the inside scoop. Maybe you can give us a little inside information, eh?
I don't actually know the truth, Garrett, but it is interesting.
Oh, sure you don't. You're giving us the yarn.
Well, it's interesting. When's the last time Brandy had to play in a qualifier? Like, honestly, like 2016, 17, like, it's going to be a while, and her and Sophie have the points that they're going to be in a qualifier. So like, I think you have to factor that into a decision, that like qualifiers on the World Tour are nasty. Like, you one game, you lose, you're out.
That's
like,
a great
your points
point.
start sinking. Like that's something you got to factor into your decision. Sam Schachter, like, he played in a few qualifiers last year, but they were like a higher seed. Now him and Dan are going to be on the bottom half. Like, that's something you got to factor in. Like, it's a grind to get in.
That is a grind. And like, that's the thing too, is because it's such a slippery slope, like an early partnership. So say these people go down to the first tournament and they got to qualify, and you don't qualify. Maybe you have a terrible performance. Like, oh my gosh, like, that is an easy way to set you on unstable ground, right? Whereas like, if you're with your partner, your kind of established partner, and you go down there and you're already in the main draw, but you have a kind of a weak result, I don't think it does the same thing to your partnership. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hit you in the mind as much as maybe like, oh, I thought this was going to help me, and now here I am losing in the qualifier type thing.
Yeah, I think it gets magnified in a hurry. You can definitely overreact after one or two tournaments, because like, it's the honeymoon period. You think everything's going to be awesome, and then you get hit in the mouth, and yeah, that could be some tough conversations over dinner. Or maybe you don't go to dinner together, Garrett. I'm not sure you always had dinner with your partner after a loss.
Yeah, it's a good question. Did I? I think I was the type that I needed that. Like, I needed to, like, engage with my partner, and it wasn't like even the people who were the toughest to play with, I was still like, no, we still need to do this and get over this, and it gets better, right? Like, it improves. Even if you hate somebody, when you get to know them and get to know what's going on, you kind of learn where they're coming from. It's that slippery slope where you can make the decision to like give up. That is the big piece. And it makes me super curious, like, what was going on with those two partnerships for sure. Like, is it that? Is it like, maybe Heather said to Brandy, you know what, I got a few years left. Maybe you want to start building something else for the next quad. Does that seem likely though?
It's tough to say, because when you say quad, like, we're in a short quad. It's not 4 years.
We're in a try. You're right. We're in a try.
Ride the wave.
Do we call it a quad anymore?
Yeah, we say quad. Yeah.
But it's 3 years.
Hey, Josh.
3 is not a quad. Yeah. So Megadesk. I don't know what to call it.
So I just got a question probably for Josh. Like, and we talked about this a little bit on the side, you and I, Josh. Like, it's interesting, having a team sport like hockey, like even indoor volleyball, having just kind of that team accountability and the coach and all these systems in place. And beach volleyball was different than that. Obviously, there's just, the two of you, and there are coaches and whatnot. It's like, do coaches have any, impact on this?
Great question. I was going to grill Josh about this too.
Yeah, and not like, hey, like, you need to play with this person, and maybe not in Canada, maybe in the United States might be a better, example, because they have, 6 or 8 like top teams.
Well,
but like,
I bet in the States there's none of that, like zero of
like zero coach interference. You mean?
It would be my guess. I bet they let those guys go wild and just do what they do.
So it's interesting. We've been lucky again, like just with everything going on and us having a facility to train in and like control the courts during COVID, like Sarah and Mel have been here, Brandy and Heather have been training here. So to see the teams, they have a personal coach. And I used to think like, yeah, you see some Canadian personal coaches or the US personal coaches, you get a sense that they're a third party and they know that they work for the players and there's a lot of smoozing. Right now, I hope I can say this on the air. I don't know. I don't think it's private. Like Brandy and Sophie have a Brazilian coach, and Melissa and Sarah are working with a Serbian, and the coach drives the bus. Like they are organized, they're running practice, they're being tough. Like I didn't get a vibe that like, oh, I work for you and there's so much athlete autonomy and please don't fire me at the drop of a hat. Like the coach is driving the bus for these teams. It's tough. Like there's a little bit more team sense than I was getting, Alex, from like just people watching like the Americans and Canadians on tour. I don't get like the buddy vibe from them. I get like, we have a plan, we're going to work super hard. Here's the activity today. Like this is what we're doing. We're here to work.
But they wouldn't go to like Mel and Sarah and say, hey, I actually think it makes sense for you two to split up and play with different partners. Like they would never say that. It's their cash cow right there. Like this team success gets them paid, right? Alex is talking about you. Like is the
me?
Yeah.
Well, no. I meant like coaches in general, because like, I mean, like say, one of the coaches is tied to Sarah, and does the coach say, actually, I would suggest you actually, play with someone else. And, you're not tied to that team, you're tied to that person. You know what I mean?
Definitely that happens.
So with me stepping into the big boy job, Alex, at VC, I actually reached out to Garrett. I know I give him a hard time on the show, but I actually reached out to him with this question about like, with our guys, like, does the coach step in and say like, Alex, I don't think you should play with Garrett. I think you should play with this athlete. And what Garrett and I came to the conclusion is, I think you can support and you can like have conversations, but I think you would lose a lot of trust in my role as a program coach to say like to backdoor Garrett out of Alex partnership. Like that's not my role as a coach. I think the athlete needs to decide. Maybe on the personal coach level, it makes a little bit more sense where like in Brazil, everybody knows that Duda is the next big thing. So I bet you their personal coach sided with Duda and said, hey, like who's our next partner after Agatha, and probably dumped Agatha. Where I think sometimes coaches attach their star to the wagon of the best player. But in my role, Alex, Garrett and I both discussed, I think that's a dangerous slope when you're in charge of a program, because what if I backdoored you and then you're supposed to trust me with the new partner, or what do we do there? Like that's a lot of trust you're risking.
Yeah, and I'm almost curious how much harder that makes your job. Not backdooring, but basically going like if I know that like these three partnerships are going to be the best, if that's even possible, but they don't get along, or this doesn't work, or they don't want to do this or whatever, and you don't have a say in that, like the success of the program, which you're responsible for, it's tougher to control. We're like, with the hockey team, you just bench some guys, you send the guys to the minors, like,
or you cut this guy, or
yeah, like you are kind of just given whatever you're given, and like you don't have a say in that, which makes sense. Like it makes sense. I'm curious like how difficult that is. Like, if things don't go well, and then a year later you're starting from scratch again, and
which could be, I think what gave me peace of mind is like once the decision was made, like you know our situation with our athletes, like they don't make this lightly, like this is their career, they're putting a lot of like personal finances in that, like once they make a decision, whether I agree or disagree or think that this guy would be better, this guy, like you're all in at that point, and you're like want the team to do well and support. You don't want to be the guy waiting for something to happen and be like, oh, I told you so, I told you should have played with so and so. So once it's not an easy decision, once they pick their partner and they do their training plan and we figure out, I think you're just all in, and you plan for some ups and downs, but you got to go with it. I don't want to, be half out on a team, like even if I don't agree with it, right?
Yeah, this is what happens, Josh. You text me 16th, and I started grilling you and making you spill the beans. So,
yeah, let's go. Like I'm ready to grill Josh even more, because I mean you can't really say though publicly and to people like what you think about the partnerships, but it definitely happens, Alex. Let's not mistake it. Like just Josh shouldn't be doing that, but it happens. Absolutely, it happens. And it happens probably more around things like when somebody's in control of a selection of something. And it doesn't really happen with adult, because like you can just go and get registered for a tournament. You can play country quota if you want to. Like screw you if you're not going to give me something. I'm going to go and just take it. Whereas younger ages and selection and carding and stuff like that, it gets really hairy with that sort of stuff, and like very, I don't want to say political, but very subjective, right? Like very much, and I mean it's a sport, but like the years that I played in the youth and junior worlds, I was selected every year. I mean, we had a tournament to play, but they decided that we were going to have a tournament decide the winner. Some years there was no tournament, they just picked. You know what I mean? And even some years I wanted to play with somebody else. They didn't want to play with me. And the coach said, you got to do this if you want to go. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of wild to think about, but it's, so that's where it gets in. The other thing too is like my biological father, who was my coach for a long time, he's my personal coach. So whenever I was with a teammate, that was our team's coach, right? But he's telling me if he thinks I should be playing with this guy or this guy, right? Like, so it's a lot different there. Whereas, I'm sure in these situations where they both hire somebody together, they're definitely not saying that. I got to assume.
Do you think your results, though, not only like gave the program confirmation? Because let's face it, yeah, you were nominated every time, but I think at Youth Worlds you took a top 10 every single time, Garrett. Like you took a 9th with Sidgwick. Like you and Nick did well, you and Danny did well, like you and Sam won. So I think the coach can say, well, I'm going to select the best athletes because I know what I'm doing, and you went and got them a result, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But at the same time, the first time I went to the U21 Worlds, I was selected and paired with Dan Deering, and we lost in the qualifier. I mean, so like, yeah, I had a bunch of good results. I had a bunch of bad results. I mean, I can validate, but like, I still was picked. You know what I mean? Like, and paired. Not just a team was picked. I was picked and paired with somebody else.
Yeah, I just think like if I say nominated you two Yahoos to go to like a Norseca and you take like a 13th, I would get
by
some heat
Yahoos.
for that.
Do you mean me and Alex?
Oh yeah.
Do you have to break up Poldma and LeBlanc? We're still up there.
What are you talking about, Alex? You wouldn't break up with him to play with me?
Well, I don't know.
I tried to backdoor.
This is where we need Josh to get involved here to make this happen here. And do you have the power to nominate us for a Norseca? Because if you do, you should be doing that.
If there was a Norseca, I might go down that avenue, but I don't even know if the one's going to happen, Garrett.
Well, next Norseca, if you have the power, you better nominate me. Let's go, Josh. I'm back in, and it's through pure nepotism.
Yes.
Pure selection by the coach.
See, this is an interesting scenario. Like, playing with Garrett or playing with Nick LeBlanc. I'm like, well, Nick and I just, out off the court, we get along really well. We can travel together, and
yeah, you got the unknown with this wild card over here. It's a tough call. And these are the types of decisions that these players have to make.
Yeah, that'd be. I shouldn't actually call it because Nick would. I don't want to sue Nick, but yeah. I never heard of Garrett May until today, so probably still stick with Nick. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that again, we've had that a few times on this show organically, Alex. So you joke.
Just the video
I hope
game
you
guy.
joke, but
So
it's
do you
not
play?
actually a joke. Like we've had people on who don't know who I am, and it hits the ego every time. It hurts.
Well, I don't think anyone in the volleyball community knows who I am, so
no,
I'm not,
I disagree because I bet they don't know your name, but I bet a lot of people would know to see your face because of that viral photo that went around of you unfortunately placed. We got to talk about that. Holy shit. That went around the world, Alex.
You were on
Yeah.
Shaq's Twitter, weren't you?
Oh man, Shaq, Britney Spears, Snoop Dogg.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but basically I had a bunch of pops in Cuba and got into a photo, and
It is
that
not
happened.
your fault. You say you had a bunch of pop. It is not your fault at all.
I know. And then like I remember, so I was in Cuba after I graduated, and then I went to Europe on a bike trip for like a month. And so by the time it got viral, I was like in Europe somewhere on a bicycle with no like internet. So like every 7 days when I'd get internet and like text my girlfriend and my mom saying I'm alive, my phone would just explode. And I was like, why do I have like, I don't know, 700 Facebook notifications? And it was because of that photo. And then
I've got it up here. It is.
Oh man. Yeah, look how silly my face looks. That's
I know, like the pose is a funny one, but unfortunate
that's at 4 a.m. Like I think.
Wow.
Anyway.
Yeah, but that went like that. Could so easily just not be seen by many people, right? Like.
Yeah, I had some people like message me being like, "Yo, like you should get that photo down," because they thought it was my actual, heart. And there's some funny stories. Some guy sent me a photo of it as like a postcard. Like someone was selling it as a postcard. I think
That's insane. You could sue these people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't really.
Did anybody
care.
message you and be like, "Hey, looking good, man.
No, I got most of the this is honestly not even close to real. This is such a misrepresentation. My one friend, she worked at RBC in Toronto, and her boss called in the entire floor into his massive office. So there's 25 people on his computer, and he shows the photo, and she's like, I know that guy. And then she dropped a comment about size and then left, and everyone started laughing and whatever. And yeah,
Awful.
So
That's painful. Just getting buried. You're not even there. You're just hearing about it secondhand.
I'm pretty self-deprecating, so I'm okay with getting buried everywhere. So
if you haven't see, it's a risky photo to look for. If you go and Google it, right? That's the thing. What's the safest way we can recommend people going to look for this thing without coming across a bunch of other things? I don't have a good way.
It was a holiday photo gone wrong or something like that, or I don't know.
Let's check that.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to really Google foot dick. That's a tough one.
Yeah, that would be a challenge. Yeah, no, holiday photo gone wrong is not really helping us. I searched
shoe and I don't know.
I searched photo where foot looks like penis. And that did it, but there was a lot of photos of other things looking like penises, which some looked really real, and I didn't want to go there. So proceed with at your own risk, looking up this photo.
This is terrible.
Yeah, should we put an explicit tag on this one? Probably, eh?
Well, we're not going to show it. We're not going to show it.
Oh, no. I was just wondering if I had some...
Are we breaking any rules here? I hope not. Oh my gosh. That is hilarious. Well, Alex, that is how things go. And I mean, we're trying to capitalize on some of that, but I'm not sure if it's going to help us. But we've appreciated you being on the show. This is how things usually go. We get to a point where I ask the guest how you thought it went so far.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, Garrett, I haven't talked a whole lot personally, and Josh, we get along pretty well, and you guys are fun and allowed me to tell some stories, and didn't get too mad at me for bringing up a hockey reference. I know Josh is a hockey guy, so he gets me that way. But yeah, no, this was fun. I got some more Waterloo stories for you. Like I said, Beck's fiance Reed has so many good ones of this just ridiculous circus of a team before Chris Lawson came. I didn't have any on the top of my mind.
I would love to hear that. You got to hook us up and get some of those and come back and deliver so we can hear those. And I should circle back and get some stories from the old days at Western too. I feel like a lot of teams have that same thing. When things were just Bush League, the kind of stuff that went on. Gotta tell some stories. Yeah,
just a couple of them were the coach had 7 children. So they were always in the gym for every practice. So
guys kids?
So some of the drills were hey, volley to yourself around the kids. That was a good drill.
Yeah, but if you fail that drill, you're just pounding the kid.
Yeah, and another one too was one of the tryouts with one of the guys, Schneeds on our team. He tried out for Waterloo when Fernando Pardo was the coach, and the warm up was 50 suicides, 200 push-ups, and
50?
It was 45 minutes straight of just go, and then they can't lift their arms anymore, and they're starting to do drills, and he's freaking out because no one can play, but they just did 45 minutes of push-ups and suicides. That was just, anyway, there's stuff like that, and
that's crazy. But they must have been in shape and been able to do some nice bench, which we all know is super important for volleyball.
Yeah, that's why they were 0-20 for 3 years in a row, whatever that was.
Wow. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that you thought it went well. Nobody has yet to tell us they thought it went terribly. So we're batting pretty well, Josh. Now, will you subscribe, Alex, or will you shaft us and ignore that completely? This is the pressure I put on the guests.
I actually will. So I'm subscribed on Passin Dimes, Josh. I don't know if you see that, if it tells you. But I have been for a long time.
That's bonus points right there.
But yeah, I thought, does this come out through Passin Dimes on the Apple Podcasts, or is it different?
It does.
This will be on YouTube as well, but it does go through the podcast.
Oh,
network.
so Garrett's asking about a YouTube subscription, eh?
That's right. Yeah,
Ooh,
YouTube subscription. I guess I'm not being clear enough about that, but then maybe people are getting annoyed that I'm being too clear about that. It's hard to say. What I'm really looking for is people to go on and comment on the YouTube video and chirp us and really engage it, because that's fun. Is that stuff.
Yeah, well, I think since I've told some of these Waterloo stories, I'll get some of the boys to get on, and they'll start a chat. Hey, I'll subscribe if you guys can guarantee me like 10 more episodes in the next 2 years. What do you guys think? Is that a good deal?
You on?
You, but like we could like change it. We could have an Estonian episode. We could have like Waterloo alumni. We could change it up a little bit.
Well,
yeah.
Listen, we will sell anything for a subscriber. So 10 appearances, I'm ready to make that commitment, Josh. I don't do that lightly.
And a Starbucks gift card. That's what I'm thinking.
Yikes. See, we didn't say this episode that we have no budget. We have no money for that. So, Josh.
No, I'll subscribe, and I'm happy to come on whenever. And yeah, like Josh knows, got a lot of different avenues to talk about. So I'm happy to come on whenever. And maybe I should have actually mentioned Tom Sura as like a clown as well. Maybe he's got your place.
You can save it for next time, because I'm sure there's some clowning that guy's done. Does anybody not get along with Josh? What we never have happen on this show, Josh, is people come on and disagree / chirp you. It never happens.
Is that why you come in so hard, Garrett, to balance out?
I have to.
Okay. Yes,
because you're bringing on people who are chirping me. Yeah, I could take it, but it seems like there's some sort of. Did you guys agree beforehand it was going to be like pillow fight?
I think there definitely is, Garrett. I think the small
there definitely
the small
is an
thing
agreement
for the listeners to know is usually the guy booking the guests is me. So usually I'm like friends first. You know, that's who I'm trying to go with.
I got to bring in
the
whole crowd of boys to just launch you with insults and let you know.
So I can hop in on that once I know what number I was in Josh's phone book.
So we do need to reveal that.
So I may be a clown of the week because when I messaged Ben Saxton, the time zone difference, I finally just said, like, I mixed it up twice, Garrett, where he didn't know what I was talking about. So finally I said 8 o'clock my time. I was that like Ontario idiot who just said my time, and he had to do the math because I mixed it up twice with him.
Wait, you mixed it up twice and then went to my time?
Yes. Because I asked him his time, and then he said your time or my time, and I said your time, but then he said, what time is it your time? And then he's like, well, actually, it's that time. So this Alberta to Ontario thing, I messed it up twice with Ben. So,
for our listeners out there, for the two of you who are still listening, if you're ever talking with somebody about time zones, use the time zone name. When you're talking
Eastern? No, I'm going to say my time as a center of the universe Toronto guy. But anyways, Ben Saxton was asked, couldn't make it.
Okay, so one.
Garrett. We have a team registered for snow volleyball. Jake McNeil, Alex Russell, and Liam Kopp are going to go play snow volleyball in Turkey. I invited them. They were all busy.
So three. Whoa, I thought you were going to stop at Ben Saxton.
No, we're still going, Alex. There's 10 more people, though. Get ready. So we're at 4.
Hey, Josh, give it to me, buddy. Give it to me. Make it like 2. Make it like
Tom Sora was asked.
Okay, Tom Sora was asked before you, Alex. Just keep that in mind. He got the call before you and said no.
That's all right.
Technically, I asked Garrett at around 4 o'clock my time when I said, we don't have a guest. Do you have any ideas? So technically, I asked Garrett to reach out to his network, too. So, like, that was another one.
I'm 0 for 2. So I don't know if we want to include that in there, Josh, or not.
Yeah. Just add it all on.
So I'm 0 for 2. Neither of them were Alex.
And then, I don't know if I should say names because when they come on the show, it's not a surprise anymore. But remember Madison, we used to coach at Leaside on those Sunday clinics, Garrett? She's at Brock now, killing it. I asked Maddie. She couldn't make it tonight, but she'll be on eventually. She's got midterms, so.
Okay. So 8.
8.
And then Alex.
That's it?
Alex. That's it?
What do you mean that's it? That is maybe a high score.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting people to talk to.
And none of them are you. No.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
No.
I'm like, there's got to be like 30 people. But it would have been cool if you just went Ben Saxton, Alex Poldma. But it's okay.
Yeah, you were okay with that when he said Ben Saxton first. You were like, oh, okay, yeah, like we're not doing too bad.
A little red there. I was like, oh, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, then it went downhill quick. As if though you mentioned Tom Sora as clown of the week for potentially your next guest visit, and then he says he actually reached out to Tom Sora and he said no.
And so then actually, he's a player of the week then, because then he let me get on. So That's pretty good.
If that was the player of the week, that would have been just perfect, but didn't work.
He did apologize for not being able to make it. Then I said, we got you. And he says, oh, tell Sass I say what's up. What does Sass mean? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
No, it's pronounced sus. Basically, my nickname in Estonian is sus. So like no one who's Estonian calls me Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that because you do seem pretty suspect. So I get that.
Yeah. I guess that's.
I'm sure it doesn't have to do with that, but sus definitely is suspect. Is that where it comes from? No.
Gary, just before I forget though, speaking of comments on it, Carrie didn't comment on the video. Is Carrie okay?
Carrie didn't see the video.
But
nobody saw last week's episode. If you're still listening, go check it out because it was a great one. We felt good about it, but nobody saw it, Josh.
Yeah.
For those of you who did see it, thank you so much. But yeah, we better shut this down because we don't want to embarrass ourselves any further. So, Alex, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your thoughts and insight and the fact that we had to go to the bottom of the barrel to get you. I hope you're not too pissed. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time.